Hello and welcome to the Truth in Words at Tony's podcast, where we unpack the hidden power of language and how it shapes our understanding of the world. I'm your host Tony, and today we're going to dive into the dark side of euphemism, these soft, seemingly harmless phrases that mask harsh realities. In time of war, euphemism become tool for deception, used not just to sanitize the brutality of conflict, but to manipulate voters and public opinion. They're more than lies. They're a form of disrespect and some would argue even evil. Let's explore how euphemisms are used to brainwash voters, distort the truth, and dehumanize the suffering of war. A euphemism is a mild or indirect word or expression used to replace something harsh, blunt, or uncomfortable. Instead of calling something what it is, we sugarcoat it, making it easier to digest. Say, for example, civilian casualties become collateral damage. Bombing campaign is softened to airstrike. Torture is reframed as enhanced interrogation techniques. These terms don't just abstract the truth, they actively reshape it, making atrocities seem palatable or even necessary. During war, governments, media outlets, and political leaders lean heavily on euphemism to control the narrative. Words are carefully chosen to minimize the emotional impact of events. Hear how it works. Sanitizing deaths and destruction. Instead of saying we killed 100 civilians in an airstrike, they say the operation resulted in collateral damage. By removing human lives from the equation, the focus shifts away from the horror of what happened. Framing aggression as defense. Military invasions are often framed as peacekeeping missions or operations to restore stability. These phrases imply benevolence, masking the aggression and violence that often define such actions. Dehumanizing the enemy. The enemy is rarely referred to as people. They are labeled as insurgents, extremists, or combatants. This makes it easier to justify their deaths, or the words strip away their humanity. Glorifying war for recruitment and support. Words like heroes and sacrifices are used to frame war as noble and necessary. While soldiers' bravery is undeniable, this framing can manipulate voters into unquestioning support for war. Euphemisms don't just obscure the truth, they shape how people think and vote. When voters hear sanitized language, they are less likely to oppose war. Here's why. Creating emotional distance. Euphemisms create a psychological buffer between voters and the realities of war. Terms like surgical strikes imply precision and cleanliness, hiding the destruction and chaos that inevitably follow. Appealing to patriotism. Leaders often use euphemism to appeal to national pride. They talk about defending freedom or preserving democracy, even when the actions taken contradict these ideals. Voters are swayed by the emotional resonance of these phrases. Suppressing opposition. Euphemism disarm critics by making opposition seem unreasonable. Who would oppose peacekeeping efforts or stabilizing missions? The language is designed to make dissent appear unpatriotic. Euphemisms aren't just manipulative, they're profoundly disrespectful and even harmful. Here's why. Disrespecting the victims. By using euphemism, we erase the pain and suffering of real people, soldiers, civilians, and entire communities. Calling civilian deaths collateral damage reduce human lives to a statistical inconvenience. Deceiving the public. Euphemisms are a form of dishonesty. They withhold the truth from voters, preventing them from making informed decisions about war and its consequences. Perpetuating war. When the public is shielded from the brutal reality of war, it becomes easier for leaders to justify ongoing or future conflicts. Euphemisms enable a cycle of violence by muting dissent and fostering complacency. Moral corruption. At its core, the use of euphemism in war reporting is a kind of moral corruption. It prioritizes propaganda over truth and power over accountability. The first step to resisting euphemism is awareness. We must critically analyze the language used in wartime reporting and political rhetoric. Here's how. Demand transparency. Hold leaders and media outlets accountable for the language they use. Insist on accurate, unfiltered reporting that respects the gravity of war. Learn to decode euphemism. When you hear terms like collateral damage or peacekeeping efforts, ask yourself, what does this really mean? What are they trying to hide? Amplify honest voices. Support journalists, writers, and activists who strive to tell the unvarnished truth about war. Share their work and help spread awareness. Educate others. Discuss the impact of euphemism with friends, family, and your community. The more people understand this issue, the harder it becomes for leaders to manipulate public opinion. Euphemism may seem like harmless words, but they are far from innocent. In times of war, they are tools of manipulation, distorting the truth, disrespecting the victims, and enabling violence. As voters and global citizens, it's our responsibility to see through these linguistic smoke screens and demand honesty from those in power. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Truth in Words. I hope today's discussion inspires you to think critically about the language we encounter every day, especially in times of conflict. If you have thoughts, questions, or ideas for future episodes, I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, stay informed, stay vigilant, and let's keep the conversation going.